Welcome to the Stop Down Photography Podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, Scott Davenport, and today's topic is Ignite Your Creativity with a Photo Workshop. Photo workshops are a great way to grow as a photographer. It immerses you in photography, it pushes you creatively, it reinvigorates your passion for photography, and in my experience, workshops are actually one of the best ways to grow as an artist. Today I want to share some personal experiences with workshops, both as a participant as well as an instructor, and I've got some thoughts as well to help you choose the workshop that is right for you. I thought this would be a good topic for the beginning of the year, and we're still early in 2020. I've been reflecting on my work for the past year, noticing certain shifts in my tastes, and maybe not a shift. It's more like an expansion of the photos that I'm finding myself interested in. And when I thought about it, the experiences that I've had on workshops has really fueled that expansion of my creative eye. And it's really what has driven a good portion of my creativity. Once you get past that beginner's phase where you're loving everything about photography and everything is new and everything becomes a new creative endeavor, you get to a point where you sometimes hit a rut. You hit a stumbling point, and you need to find that creative spark again. And I think workshops are a great way to do that. Workshops, they really are like no other photographic experience. You get to spend time with like-minded photographers. You're usually in a beautiful or an interesting place. You're just immersed in the craft, and everything else in life gets to take a pause, just even if it's just for a couple of days. I've attended workshops, several of them, over the course of my photographic career, and by and large, I've been very happy with them. I've also led workshops. I take small groups on multi-day landscape adventures, so I have both sides of the table here to talk about. And really, either side of the table that I'm on, I firmly believe workshops are a great way, if not the best way, to grow your photography and ignite or reignite your creativity. Now, this would normally be the part of the podcast where I'd say, hey, here's my 2020 workshop schedule and here's where you can register, right? Well, that's not going to happen. In 2020, I'm taking a bit of a break from hosting workshops. Maybe I'll attend one, maybe not. And 2020 is a long year, so we'll see how things progress. But what I want to do today is share a few personal stories from workshops that I've been a part of and how they really did fuel my photographic creativity. I also have a few, 5 to be precise, questions to ask yourself and ask about a workshop you're thinking of attending. Because the key thing for a photo workshop is to get one that's a right fit for you. So here's a story from one of the first workshops I attended. It was what I thought was going to be a landscape-oriented workshop. It was in California, along the coastal areas. That's definitely my cup of tea. And as the workshop progressed, I was kind of unsatisfied at first. We weren't getting out at golden hour. The locations weren't as epic as I thought they were going to be. And I vividly remember one of the locations we went. It was a nice little cove, but we're getting there at 9 in the morning, well after sunrise. Light wasn't favorable, and I'm wandering around this bit of beach saying, what am I gonna do? I'm here. I need to take some photos, and I ended up spending 10 to 15 minutes with a couple of snail shells that I found in a tree stump and trying to make something work with that. And that was kind of how that workshop went for me. And after the workshop, when I thought about it and took a beat and looked back, it actually made me do things that I wouldn't have normally done. I'm always the guy looking for that big landscape, dramatic scene. And when I look at the photos from this workshop that I took, they were much more intimate. They were pushing me in a creative direction that I might not have otherwise done, or at least I wouldn't have stumbled across easily or more directly. it made me go and look for photos that I might otherwise not find. I used that, and that became part of my next set of photo workshops, both as an instructor and as a participant, where, yes, I'm still landscape oriented. I want those gorgeous, epic looking landscape photos, but also I started to mix in different photos that were smaller in scale or supporting. Like if, I think of this like as a movie or as a big band. You've got a few lead stars or lead musicians, and there is the supporting cast. And I found that having those photos as part of the story of a place, the mix of the big landscapes as well as the smaller details, that told a more complete story. You sit somebody down and show them, oh, you went to California, for example. If I show you 15 photos in a row of, here's a beach and some rocks, here's a beach and some rocks, here's a beach and some rocks, you get bored. But if you mix in some of these other things, like this snail shell thing I'm talking about, matter of fact, I should try to dig up that photo and put it on stopdownpodcast.com so you can see the photo that I'm talking about from one of the workshops I attended. Now, on the opposite side of that table, the workshops that I host, one of the things that I really enjoy is getting to see the work of other photographers. And so having a sharing time at the end of a workshop, everyone gets to show certain photos they took during the workshop. And it is amazing how different people see the same location in a different way. It can be the composition, it can be the choice in focal length, it can be the choice in depth of field, it can be the processing of it, and all of that gets to fuel my creativity. I get to see the same place I know that I was through someone else's eyes. Same time of year, same day, same hour, all the same things, but it's a completely different photo, and that really fills your creative bank. You get all these extra ideas, you put them in the creative bank, and then the next photo outing you're on, wherever you are, different location, your own backyard, whatever it might be, you get to tap into that and leverage all of that creative stuff you put in the bank. All right, so making my case here, right? Hopefully I've convinced you that a workshop is a good thing, and attend one if you've never attended one before. To help you with that, I got 5 different questions that you should ask about a workshop to help you pick the right one. The first question is the obvious question. Do you like the photos of the workshop leader? Do you like their photos? Do you like their work? It's the most obvious question to ask. And if you already know the photographer and it's their photos that have drawn you to wanting to take a workshop, well, then you know the answer to this question. But in other cases, you might be looking for a workshop for a certain type of photography, wildlife or street, or you're interested in a location that the workshop instructor is known for. Nothing wrong with that at all, but take the extra step and take a look at the leader's portfolio. Do you like their work? Is her work in the genre that you're interested in? And if it's not, maybe you want to think a little deeper about that workshop. For instance, I'm a landscape photographer, and even if I were interested in going to a certain location that an instructor is known for, but it's geared toward wildlife or street photography, then that wouldn't really be the right workshop for me. The goals of the workshop probably not be fully aligned with what I want to get out of it. Look at the leader's work and kind of look at the surround of that. Is it in a genre that matches what you're looking to get from the workshop, especially if you're thinking about it from the point of view of a location? Second question to ask is, do you like the leader's teaching style? And this arguably may be the most important question to ask. Everybody learns differently. Each one of us thinks slightly differently. And some people explain things in a way that makes sense to us, and others explain things in a way that doesn't resonate with us. It doesn't mean that person's necessarily a poor instructor. It just may mean that their brain thinks differently than my brain, and it's not the right teacher for me. You need to find a person that their approach to photography, their communication style, it resonates with you. And in today's online world, it's reasonably easy to gauge the personality of a workshop leader. YouTube, Vimeo, Lynda, Facebook, websites, the list just keeps on going. Workshop leaders should have some sort of online presence and at least an example of their photo education style. Watch a few of the videos. See if it matches with the way that you think and learn. Honestly, if you have a potential instructor that doesn't have an example of their teaching style online, you may want to fire off a question or two to them, or ask some other people that you can identify that have attended workshops with them. Something like that. Find a personal reference or another trusted photographer if you can't find a direct example of a leader's teaching style. So match your the way you learn with this instruction style of a potential leader. Question number 3 is to ask yourself, what do you want out of the workshop? Now, speaking from the point of view of a workshop instructor, there's 2 broad categories of photographers that I get on the workshops I host. The first one is someone who wants to improve their craft. They want to get better at composition, learn how to use filters, work on post-processing. There's some tangible skill they want to improve. They want to grow. The other type of photographer is someone that simply wants access to great locations. They know their camera, they're happy with their processing style, and what they want is the location research and the local knowledge. Put me in a cool place at the right time, and then let me go do my thing, and I'll capture the photos that I want. Both are valid, both are fine. Ask yourself, which type are you? If you're looking to improve a certain skill, find out if the workshop leader teaches that and can teach it effectively, to my previous point about matching with a leader's teaching style. Connect it with your vision of where you want to be with your photography in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever it might be. So that's an important thing, just knowing what is it that you want to get out of the workshop. Have a goal and then match the workshop that will support that goal. If all you're interested is in local knowledge, hang on a second, I got a question coming up that you'll also want to ask. 4th question, is the workshop leader's workflow similar to yours? And for this question, I'm thinking primarily of post-processing. So if post-processing isn't part, skip ahead a minute in the podcast. You can get to the last question on the list. But for post-processing, are you the type of photographer that enjoys post-processing? Me, I like it. And I'd say about 40% to 50% of the work I do on a photo is after I've pressed the shutter. And if you're looking for advice and guidance on the post-processing side of things, make sure that's part of the workshop. Some workshops do that, others don't. If you're the type of photographer that just likes to take the photos, do something very minimal, a couple of auto buttons or basic contrast adjustment, well, then joining a workshop where there is classroom time and computer time, that may not be what you want. You may want to maximize time behind the camera. So choose the workshop based on your overall workflow. I guess I could expand this beyond post-processing. How much time do you spend on creating that final photo? Is it 80% with the camera and 20% with the computer? Is it 50-50? And finding out if you're looking to get more in the post-processing arena, is that part of the overall workshop and part of the leader's workflow? The 5th and last question is, does the leader have local knowledge about the place you're going? Now, this one seems obvious, and over the years, I've learned, occasionally the hard way, but I've learned that not every instructor pre-scouts locations. I was literally floored when I had one person on a workshop I was hosting told me about another workshop where the instructor had never been to any of the places they were going to photograph. And that just really surprised me, thinking of it from the point of view of a workshop host. That seems to me to be obvious. Yes, you need to know the locations. You're taking all these people to a place. You have to know where you're going and what the conditions are. Make sure that the leader has actually visited the locations, or she or he is partnering with a guide that has that local knowledge. Another follow-up question to ask is if the workshop leader has been to the locations you're going at roughly the same season when the workshop is, because the same location can change quite dramatically between, say, summer and fall, or fall to winter. I'm thinking in particular of Acadia National Park. I've hosted a workshop there, and in the autumn, it's very, very beautiful. And in the winter, it is completely different. All the leaves are gone. It's more barren landscapes. It's a very, very different place depending on the season. Actually, speaking of Acadia, that brings up another point with related to local knowledge, is ensuring the instructor has proper permits to host the workshop. If there is a national park involved in a workshop, chances are it's going to require a permit, at least in the United States. And you want to make sure your instructor has those permits. Park rangers will ask a workshop leader, show me your permit. And I have heard stories of when a leader did not have that permit, the workshops immediately shut down. And then as an attendee, you're left without a guide and, with several days perhaps of photography still left more or less on your own. So local knowledge is important. Permits are important. You don't want to be on the receiving end of a poor experience because a workshop instructor didn't connect with the right set of people to guide you through a location. So those are 5 questions to ask to help you choose the workshop that's right for you. It's not an exhaustive list by far. I do think these are the critical ones to get answered up front. And if they've been answered to your satisfaction, then you can go that next level, checking into some of the logistical things. If you're doing a landscape workshop, how much hiking is involved? How much climbing is involved? Is it a hilly terrain? Is it rocky terrain? Weather conditions. If it's a street photography workshop, are you needing to walk a bunch of miles a day? Is that within your comfort zone? You're within your physical abilities? Ask the leader about those things. I know I've gotten those questions in the past, and I really appreciate it on the instructor side of it. I don't want someone to come to a workshop and they're not going to have a good time because the hike that we have planned for a particular day is more than they think they can handle. And so, ask those questions, go that second level there. But circling it back to the main point of why workshops are good for your photography is they will fill your creative bank. You will learn so much from the instructor, from the other participants, seeing other people's work, just working side by side with other photographers, just getting to be immersed in that photographic world for a few days. The workshops jumpstart you, or they advance you. They give you that big leapfrog forward in your creativity, in your photo skills. And I can't speak highly enough of participating in workshops. As I was thinking about putting this topic together, there was a news article I caught at the tail end of December on F-stoppers. I'll put the link in the show notes. And it's called "Attending a Workshop in 2020 is Probably the Best Thing to Do If You're a Beginner Photographer." I like the article. I will take exception with that beginner part, though. I think that workshops are great just about any skill level that you are in. And there were some other points in the article that I thought were very good to highlight here. Is a relatively small group. I've participated in workshops that have been as large as 20 and as small as 8. That's as a student. I think that the smaller workshops are a little better. You get a little more one-on-one time with the leader. You can get more of your questions answered. And the tighter group, it tends to just, they gel better. Especially, you're doing meals. You can find a table for 8. You can't find a table for 20. You get to interact with just about everyone else in the workshop. Guided experience was another point in that article. Getting explanations. You go try and do it. You get to ask questions about what you just did, and then you get to go do it again. So you get to do that iterative learning. One other point that I kind of touched on already is group learning. You'll learn from the instructors, but you'll learn from the other photographers as well. And that's like the little secret of workshops. You'll learn from everyone. It's not just the instructor. You'll learn from all the participants. So back to choosing that instructor, choosing someone that's going to teach and think and explain in a way that you'll understand, chances are the other members of the workshop are going to be in a similar mindset. And so you get this group of folks that we don't have to learn our own language, so to speak, as quickly. It's just everyone's there on that same level, and you get to learn from everyone. A special thank you to supporters on Patreon. I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate your support. It is what makes this podcast possible, and it's helping thousands of other photographers enjoy their photography, grow their craft. If you're interested in learning more about the Patreon community, check the show notes, and there's a button on every page of stopdownpodcast.com where you can learn more about it. Well, that wraps up this week's episode. I hope you get out for a workshop in 2020. Grow your photography, fill that creative bank. I'm working on another topic for you for next week, and if you enjoyed today's podcast, please rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. You can also find episodes at stopdownpodcast.com, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.